Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, the Honorable Chief Secretary Orville London addresses the media.
I'd like to give an update on the situation with respect to the review of the Tobago House of Assembly Act. As you're aware, we have been treating with that for quite some time. We're now at the point where we are attempting to finalize a draft bill. The members, the forum and the THA, we met for a very, very long time, for about 6 hours on Sunday. And we are going to be meeting again this Sunday to hopefully complete that exercise. When that draft bill is completed, we are going to share the bill with a number of individuals in the first place. And we're going to be having a meeting within the next 2 weeks or so, where we're going to be discussing with those individuals, all those people, the members of the Assembly, the parliamentarians, all those individuals who have contributed to the whole process over the years, and of course other interested persons. And that meeting is going to be held within the next 2 or 3 weeks, after which we're going to have another meeting with representatives of interest groups, whether it's young people, business community, community groups, etc. And then we're going to have a final public meeting where we hopefully will get consensus on the draft bill. That bill will be sent to the Prime Minister, who has committed to sending it, taking it to Cabinet, and then of course a process involving public participation and of course perusal by a joint select committee. All of that will take place after it goes to Cabinet. So I just wanted to give the people the assurance that although we have not necessarily been in the public limelight over the last month or so, that our work is continuing, and we're well on the way to having a document which could be presented to the people of Tobago in the shortest possible time. Last night we continued our series of community meetings. We had an excellent meeting at the Goodwood Primary School involving the residents of the Goodwood Belgarden area electoral district. And I think everybody there was impressed by the report of the representative, Mr. Hayden Spencer, Assemblyman Hayden Spencer. And sometimes when you actually involved in doing things on a day-to-day basis, you don't recognize cumulatively how much you in fact have achieved. And when he was able to present, the amount of work that was done, the number of activities in which he was able to engage the members of his electoral district, and the kind of improvement that would have taken place consistently in the electoral district, I think everybody there was highly impressed. And I really want to commend Mr. Spencer, the various divisions, for what has transpired in that particular electoral district. So all the meetings to date have been successful, bearing in mind we are aware that even if you have a meeting in an electoral district, that the majority of people who come out would be people in the community in which the meeting is held. So that the electoral district representatives have committed to holding additional meetings in those communities in which that particular face-to-face meeting, we call them, would not have been held. So this Meet the People exercise would continue, but also be extended, and hopefully within the next 4 to 6 months we should be getting into almost every community in Tobago. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, the 17th of March at the Bucco-Mount Pleasant, and that's for the Bucco-Mount Pleasant Electoral District. And the meeting is 7 p.m. at the Lowlands Community Center. And then on the 7th of April, we move to the Betsy Soap Community Center, and that would be for the Roxborough Belgarden, Roxborough Delaford Electoral District. Some weeks ago I spoke, and I just want to give you the assurance that complete schedules are available, and you can collect them from the secretary when you go across there, with the dates and the times and the venues. Some weeks ago I spoke about the procurement process and the need for us to have a more robust procurement process in the Assembly, and not only a process, but to put in place the process whereby we can process which can be implemented, if you want to put it like that. The order or the circular would have gone out on the 11th of February, advising the administrators on what they were supposed to do. And then the administrators had a deadline by which they were to report to the respective secretaries as to what they would have done in order to implement the instructions given in the circular. Now, bear in mind, however, that if you're going to have procurement and the procurement is going to be successful, then all the players in the process have to understand how the process operates. And therefore, we have a situation where the officers in the Tobago House of Assembly, the administrators and the secretaries have been made aware of what is to happen. And the next step is to get the suppliers and the contractors and all those who do business with the Assembly to let them be aware of exactly what the situation is. So that meeting was held yesterday, where the Chief Administrator and our consultant, Mr. Alan Richards, would have met with all the contractors and explained to them how the system worked, took questions, dealt with any queries, so that they would understand what they should or should not do. Because I want to reiterate that ignorance is not going to be an excuse for doing the wrong thing. And therefore, we have advised suppliers and contractors that if they do provide materials and services to the Tobago House of Assembly without going through the appropriate procedures, they will not be paid. And therefore, we felt that it was necessary to let them know that, so that they would not say, well, listen, an agent came to me or an officer came to me and told me X, Y, and Z, and therefore to help out the situation, I gave him some goods or I provided some services. That is not the way things should be done, and we will not be able to meet any kind of commitments made in those circumstances. I must say that I am heartened by the response among the officers of the Assembly. I think there has been a significant improvement, and the reports, I was not there, but the reports from the administrator indicate that the business community was very appreciative of the information and, of course, the feedback from the Tobago House of Assembly. Some weeks ago, I did a walkabout in one of my electoral districts, and I met a farmer who was devastated by the parrots and what they had done to his crop, his cocoa. And I had a discussion with the Chief Administrator and the Secretary of Agriculture as to what were we doing in order to try to control the pests. And they indicated to me that one of the major challenges they had was the lack of ammunition, so that the game wardens could get involved in culling and scaring away the parrots and the cockatoos especially. And I recognize, or we recognize, that there was some administrative hurdle between the Tobago House of Assembly and the office and the police, so that we had discussion with the Commissioner of Police, who was quite cooperative, and I think that those bottlenecks are going to be eradicated, and within weeks rather than months, we should be able to get ammunition to the game wardens so that they can, after many years, be able to start culling these pests. and hopefully bring some measure of relief to the farmers. I don't want people to become overly optimistic. This is not going to eradicate the situation, the problem, but it is going to alleviate it to a certain extent and take away from us a feeling of almost helplessness in the face of this devastating turn of events. I was at the meeting at Goodwood, and even the farmers have indicated that the whole yam, the planting of yam in Tobago is now something that is not particularly popular among farmers because they're really planting for their agoutis. And that has created some serious challenges. So we're hoping that we, at least this particular initiative on the part of the chief administrator would allow the game wardens to be a little bit more effective. Later this month, we're going to be having 2 meetings in the Roxborough-Louis-d'Or area. Next week, Wednesday, we're going to meet with the residents on the Louis-d'Or estate to explain what we're going to be doing with respect to the reallocation or the allocation of lands and the regularization of persons living on that estate. And on the 16th, members of the Tobago House of Assembly are going to be responding to a request from the Roxborough Police Youth Club to meet to discuss a number of issues that are impacting on the people of Roxborough. And finally, yesterday, the Secretary of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing and the Environment and we had a very successful, maybe I should say productive meeting with the Tobago Agricultural Society, and we were able to treat with a number of their issues. One of the aspects which was emphasized is the need for collaboration. And I just want to reiterate that the Tobago House of Assembly is aware that there are times when there'll be disagreements between, the Assembly and any organization. But as came out in that meeting, a lot of the time what is needed is dialogue in an environment of cooperation where there is limited distrust, or where the distrust is limited, and therefore people are able to treat with the issues. So that they would have brought to the table, I think, 10 or so issues which were serious. And I think at the end of the exercise, we were able to treat satisfactorily with most of them. But more importantly, I believe that we would have started or restarted or continued a conversation that would lead us to a position where we can really deal with all the issues, but more importantly, nurture an environment in which the farmers can, in fact, develop. And I want to make one point. This assembly is willing to assist persons who wish to get involved in agriculture. But I just want to repeat what I said the last time. We can only help those persons who are serious. And in every community to which I go, I send out a challenge that serious people with marketable proposals will be given serious consideration. And in fact, we have made a decision or had an agreement with the Tobago Agricultural Society that what we're going to be doing is that they will be in a position to liaise with the Division of Agriculture, Marine Affairs, Marketing and the Environment so that they can recommend to the State Land Committee individuals whom they consider serious enough and who have enough capacity to be able to make a success of agriculture. And in those circumstances, the Land Management Unit or the State Land Committee would be quite willing to provide the necessary land to allow these proposals and these projects to be actualized, operationalized. So I think that's it. I think you got quite a mouthful there, so the floor is open.
Hi, Mr. London. There seems to have been a situation arising with the Friendship Estate. Do you know anything about it? Some private person claiming the lands that's supposed to be THA's property?
Well, let me just make one general point about that. THA's land, like any other land, is land over which we have legal right. And therefore, anybody who attempts to infringe on the right of the assembly, which by extension is the right of the people of Tobago as a body to own the land, we have a responsibility to prevent it from happening. And we will do whatsoever is necessary within the law to ensure that there is no illegal encroachment on lands that belong to the THA. We operate within the law. Any land that we own, we would have acquired or we would have been allocated the land based on legal means. And therefore, in those circumstances, we're not going to in any way allow illegal occupancy.
Is the matter a legal one at this time where whoever it is concerned?
Well, as far as I'm aware, it's not a legal matter. Basically, if somebody wishes to try to encroach illegally on property that you know is yours, then you treat it as an illegality. I view a legal matter as when two people have reasonable claims and therefore the court has to decide. But as far as I'm concerned, this is outright, simply illegal entry, and that is how we're treating it.
On another issue, I'm not sure if you would have spoken in your meeting with your secretaries, if you would have spoken to the health secretary, because there's an issue that arose probably a couple of days ago with the hiring of a doctor who has been convicted and whose license was revoked in the U.S., in Florida, to be specific, and he's now hired as a doctor at the Scarborough General Hospital. In fact, I saw a memo being sent around to doctors to welcome this doctor who has been convicted in the U.S. When we did some searches, his name is still coming up with his license revoked. I don't know if she would have told you anything about this, if you know anything about this, but it's something that I think needs some kind of investigation.
Well, I mean, that's a no-brainer, because if you do have a doctor who has license revoked and the license was not, because I don't know the circumstances, I don't even know who the doctor is. But obviously, I am hoping that, during the recruitment process, they would have done the due diligence and so on, and being able to get additional information, because if all it took is to Google the name and you get that information, I would be very concerned that at least that were not done. So I will definitely have a discussion with the secretary and ask her to investigate the matter further, because especially where medicine is concerned and healthcare, you cannot be too careful. But as I said, in situations like that, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. There are situations where people's licenses have been revoked and then they have been reinstated. But so I am not going to judge the situation. But once there is a concern, I think that concern has to be investigated, addressed, and if necessary, appropriate action taken.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. London. Just on the same issue with the Friendship Estate, would you be able to provide us with a little bit of a background as to how the THA would have acquired that property?
The property, the Friendship Estate, was owned by the Motleys, and we would have gone into negotiation to do it by private treaty, to acquire it by private treaty. There were some issues there, and therefore it was acquired. The acquisition process would have been done, I would say, maybe 5-6 years ago. I can't remember the exact time. But it took a little time for the money to be paid. It was well over $100 million. It might have been closer to 120. I can't remember the exact figure, but it was well over $100 million, which the central government would have paid for the property. Because, when you acquire land, you have to pay market value. right? And therefore, the land was valued, and that was the price that was paid. I can get the exact figure, but I cannot remember it offhand. But I know it was well in excess of $100 million.
Okay, I know the family, the Robley family in particular, because they would have said that they had ownership rights to Friendship and Study Park and a few other estates around the island. But were you aware that they may have had ownership or some legal claim to the land prior?
As far as I am aware, I know of nobody who has had title to those lands. I am in the business long enough to not really, waste time on trivialities, and that to me is an irritant.
I wanted to ask if you could just elaborate a little bit on how the issue of the lands are going to be dealt with in terms of being able to transfer onto family.
You're talking about the challenge that people in Tobago have?
Yes.
Now, quite interesting, that question was asked last night at Goodwood. Now, once something is taking a long time to happen, it's because it's difficult. The question of title and regularization of land title in Tobago is a very challenging situation. Because I want you to understand, and I'll answer a question in a way that you can quote me. If you have land owned by a great-grandfather 60 years ago, and you're trying 60 years down the road to regularize, and you're talking about grandchildren, then grandchildren, children, and so on and so forth, to regularize it in a manner that would be equitable and legal in inverted commas, it requires judicial and managerial and operational, issues with which you have to treat. And therefore, in 2010, the then administration had brought 3 bills to the Parliament, which they felt the passing of those 3 bills would allow for the administration to treat with the myriad issues involved in the transfer of land. Those bills were not introduced under the next government. And I think it was the first or second meeting I had with the Prime Minister, I raised it with him. And he did make a commitment to have the bills looked at again by his legal people, evaluated, make sure that it can treat with the issues, and then, of course, have them to go to Parliament and then enacted. And the legal people, or some legal people, let me put it like that, have indicated to me that once we do that, we would be able to have a system whereby we can treat with it. I know under the previous administration, they had also set up a unit which was meant to treat with providing or collating the information and the data and putting it and computerizing it so that it is easy to manage and to, I wouldn't say manipulate, but easy to manage and utilize. And I think that also is going to help the process. But the point about it is that there's no easy answer. But I think we are going to be working with a certain amount of assertiveness in ensuring that this time around we get it right.
The Act specifically says when there are matters related to Tobago, the Chief Secretary will be invited to Cabinet to deal with those matters in that context. So are you therefore in a position to tell us what's on the agenda to discuss with the Prime Minister in Cabinet when you have your virgin visit?
Well, I lost my virginity a little while ago with respect to that.
Point.
But I have put down a number of issues with which I want to treat. Among them, I don't know if you know that, for example, whereas a minister can give a approval for someone to have leave on the grounds of public policy. The Chief Secretary cannot. So I need to get some clarification on that. I'll also need to, have discussions with certain issues that we consider big item issues in Tobago. And, to get the commitment. I got the commitment from the Prime Minister and the committee, but the commitment of Cabinet with respect to issues like the airport and issues having to do with the sea transport and ferry system, etc., the issues having to do with the bus service and things like that. But basically, I think the meeting really, because as you say, for this administration it is virginal.
Yes.
It is really to start the conversation and to initiate a relationship which hopefully would blossom down the road. And therefore it is not only about the issues that you discuss, but really about the relationship that you nurture. And that is why immediately after that meeting we have the luncheon appointment, because most of the issues which I thought of raising in Cabinet, I realized that can be raised on a one-on-one. In fact, I can take a tale out of school. When I was discussing with the secretaries and assistant secretaries before coming here, and they started giving me, things to talk about, my comment to them, if you give me everything to talk about, allowing on to talk about when all meet with the ministers. So there are maybe just about 2 or 3 issues which I think are critical, but I think we're going to have more of a conversational kind of approach, so that in that kind of situation, anything will be put on the table.
Another issue you had raised with regard to the damage that the parrots are doing to the farmers. I remember meeting a farmer last week, Friday, sitting on the curb at James Park. Usually sells oranges in the bags. I saw him empty-handed. So I said, well, what's happening with you? He says, I'm holding on for next man because the parrot ate out my entire orchard. And that's a man who had plenty of oranges every week. So he says it's bad, it's real bad, because he doesn't have anything to survive on right now. So, I mean, this thing seems to be more than a crisis as far as the survival of some of the farmers are concerned.
Yeah, and except you do, and I'm talking about serious culling. Because what they tell me is that if you shoot, you not only kill, but at least you scare them away for a little while. Because I mean, I'm not advocating them, but I remember, in the time of my grandfather, he had a gun. He had a shotgun, and I mean, they dealt with their pests in a particular kind of way. I know in these troubled times you can't do that, but it definitely is a challenge, and I made the point, and what you've said there illustrates that there's a feeling of helplessness.
Yes.
People are being destroyed. It reminded me of the chap that I told you I met at Farm Road Junction. His own was cocoa. And he used to export, pongs of cocoa balls, little cocoa balls that you grate and so on. And he said he could not even get a parcel together. I mean, it's total. It's not a matter you get half your crop, and it's total destruction. And I'm saying that this is something that we got to take very seriously. And then now that the hunting season is over, we have a challenge, because I don't want to sound sacrilegious, but from a Tobago perspective, I raised the point already. We have to examine how we treat him with the coquelicot. Although the coquelicot is a national bird, the coquelicot is a national pest. and in those circumstances, we got to make a decision as to how do we treat with it.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending March 5th, 2016.